Professionals to fight your claim. If you want to know what your case is really worth, I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to check out
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 12681. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Hopefully it was a long and safe and enjoyable holiday weekend for you, and we're pumped up that you're spending some time with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And as you might imagine, since we haven't been on the air in 4 days, there's a lot to get to from recruiting, both LSU football and LSU baseball. Blake Baker was with the guys on Off the Bench earlier this morning, and we'll hear some of what he had to say. Paul Skenes is headed to the All-Star game. Josh Pate's making everybody in South Louisiana cranky. Got some top 10 running backs in the NFL. Where does Alvin Kamara rank? Lots and lots and lots to do over the next hour and 58 minutes. So let's get right on to it here on this Monday. We're, of course, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. We told you back on Wednesday of last week, as we got ready to enter the holiday weekend, that it was expected to be a very busy and successful recruiting weekend for LSU along the defensive line. And now that we can look back on the 4-day weekend, that in fact was the case. One commitment early on the 4th of July on Thursday, a couple of more coming the following day on the 5th, and all of this adding to Bo Davis's defensive line room as LSU tries to fortify that from a position of perceived weakness, we'll see, to a position of strength. You understand that to win at the highest level in college football, you must be elite on the defensive front. And LSU's got work to do to get there. Started on the 4th of July, Zion Williams, a 6'4", 330-pound defensive lineman from Lufkin, Texas, pledged to LSU, and we assumed that that was coming. Texas certainly in the mix, TCU in the mix, I think, based on proximity there. But Bo Davis and the staff at LSU continue to recruit him really hard, and they secured his commitment. Now we look at today, 4 days later, and Zion Williamson has been a significant mover over on On3's new recruiting rankings. Prior to the commitment, he was ranked outside the top 300 as a 3-star by On3. And today, with their new rankings coming out, he has moved all the way up to the number 7 defensive tackle in this class and the number 86 overall player in this class. That is a move of over 200 spots here for Zion Williams, who has that prototypical body for the interior of a defensive line. And obviously Bo Davis put a lot of resources and time into Zion Williams, and LSU gets that commitment. The next came from Brandon Brown, a 6'1", 290-pound defensive lineman from Melbourne, Florida. He was a 4-star who was committed to Texas and had been committed to Texas since December the 19th of last year, but decided, I'm going to open things up, and he ends up pledging to LSU over the weekend. And you look at Brandon Brown, that's a guy who moved into the On3 300 and is now a 4-star prospect by On3 in these new rankings. So both of those guys on paper, which doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, the staff understands what they're evaluating and what they're recruiting, but all we have to go on is the paper. And the paper said those guys were quality players with big-time offers, but didn't necessarily stack up with the top end of their class. As of today, you can look at those rankings and suggest, yeah, both guys very much do fit in on the top end of their class. And then the final commitment that LSU got over the weekend was from Damian Shanklin, a 6'5", 335-pound edge rusher from Indianapolis, the number 1 player in the state of Indiana. Ohio State was in the mix. Alabama was in the mix. LSU lands Damian Shanklin as an edge piece to this haul. So you've got Zion Williamson in the middle at 330 pounds. You got Brandon Brown, who you feel like will develop his way into the interior at just under 300 pounds right now. And then Damian Shanklin, a guy with great length, great range, and a frame to build on at 235 pounds. He would play on the outside when he gets to campus. And this is a continuation of Bo Davis molding this group into what he needs it to look like it looked like when he was in Tuscaloosa, like it turned into in his time in Austin, Texas. And you've got guys that are being churned into the NFL draft from Bo Davis's development over there. And, oh, by the way, they had some success on the field last year in Austin, Texas. So when you look at LSU in this 2025 class, you add Zion Williams, Brandon Brown, and Damian Shanklin to Jesse Harold, another 4-star edge from Tampa, and you're talking about a slew of 4- and 5-star players that are going to come in and create an increase in talent at that position. You look at the entirety of the class, and there was a lot of movement nationally, not just at LSU, over the last 4 days. When we last left you, LSU was number 3 on 3. They're now number 5, backed up 2 spots, incidentally. And 247, they were number 10. They've moved up to number 6. In Rivals, they were number 14. They've moved up to number 10. And then you've got ESPN, which had them at number 9 when we last left you and has not updated that. But I think what's most interesting as I start to look at what the analysts and those who evaluate these classes look at, one of the things that stood out to me is LSU's got the number 1 average star rank on Rival of all the classes in the country. So LSU doesn't have 23 commitments like a couple of teams towards the top, but when you look at the average star ranking per player, LSU's is the best in the nation. And then you start to look at blue chip rate on 3, which measures how many are 4- and 5-star players, and LSU's is the best in the nation in that regard as well. So you're not talking about a class that has the depth in terms of just pure numbers that other classes have, but you're talking about a class that man for man is full of really, really, really good players. So I'll just give you, for example, Ohio State's number 1. They've got 23 commitments to LSU's 15. Bama's number 2. They've got 20 commitments to LSU's 15. Georgia is at number 3. They've got 18 commitments. Oregon is number 4. They've got 15 commitments right there with LSU. And you look at the score rating that are given to the players between Oregon and LSU, and it's very, 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 very similar to the type of players that you're bringing in. It's interesting because we know that Brian Kelly wants to sign a ton of high school players. I think there are going to be some signing classes in the Power 4 that only bring in 17, 18 guys because, hey, we're going to go get 36 transfers. And we know that Brian Kelly doesn't want to go get 36 transfers. So the inclination, what I infer from what Brian Kelly has been saying and looking at the numbers is, yes, LSU has a star-studded class, has a class that has elite-level players compared to the rest, but he wants more. He wants to go get more. I would anticipate that Brian Kelly would like to sign more than 25 players from high school every year. That's just my guess. You're going to have attrition. You're going to have guys leave into the transfer portal. You're going to have guys leave early for the NFL draft. That's inevitable. And so you can sign as many as you want as long as you only have 85 scholarships on the roster. Gone are the days where 25 is where you had to stop. So as I look at LSU, it's great that the level of player they continue to bring in is so high, but you feel like they're going to want to go get more and more and more. And there are some guys that we're going to talk about that are coming up here with commitment dates in the near future. It feels like, and this is not based on my conversations with high school players, this is certainly based on the reporting from Shea Dixon and Sonny Shipp and all the guys that cover recruiting day in, day out. It feels like a lot of high-end players are going to have their names come off the board and commit prior to their season starting. At that point, you don't need to take your visits because you're playing games on Friday nights and you're going to sign on the dotted line right there in December, and everything's just kind of expedited a little bit more. There was a time where December was a huge visit month. It's no longer. December's sign on the dotted line and get ready to move month, an early enroll month. Like that's what now December has become. So it expedites things where it's not as much, visits and commitments during the fall. That stuff takes place toward the end of the summer. The camps are kind of in the rearview mirror, both from a national perspective and from a team perspective. You're talking about free time where some of these high school players have time to move on and look at other options, and then they try to settle things in here pretty quickly. And so I think that you're going to see LSU add to these numbers in fairly short order. And the question is, like, who is that player that LSU is going to look for next? We'll talk to some guys this week as far as recruiting goes, but three big ones that LSU adds over the weekend: Brandon Brown, Zion Williams, and Damian Shanklin. You add them to Jesse Harold, a really, really strong defensive line pull for LSU, and Coach Bo Davis. That class trending towards the top 5 in all of the on all of the services. It is actually in the top 5 on 3, and there's no real sign of things slowing down. So Brian Kelly and his staff, he's put together a really good group of recruiters, and it appears things are going very, very well from that point of view. So wanted to get to some of that here as we crank things up on a Monday. When we come back, it's not just football. It's adding players into the fold. Baseball, just digging into that transfer portal, trying to mine as much talent as they possibly can. I'll tell you about the 2 guys that have jumped in the boat since we last left you and give you my thoughts on where things may go from here. You're listening to a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com. They can do whole home audio, TV installation, surround sound, video surveillance, all the bells and whistles that you want in your home. They can make it happen. It's now time to start thinking about watching those games every weekend in the fall. It's good TV from a football perspective, and you want your house to be the place to watch the game. Well, how do you make that happen? Well, you call Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio Video Security Solutions, and you talk to him about what they can do for you. If you're not sure what type of TV you're looking for, not sure how to get it mounted on the wall or how to make that happen, not sure what surround sound capabilities you may have in your home, he can help you with that every step of the way, because I certainly didn't know, and he's set us up with something that we're very, very happy with at the Palmer House. So, look, give him a call. It's Mitchell Fisher's cell, 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. Say, hey, I want everyone at my house watching the games this fall. Let's make it happen. Let's get this TV mounted. Let's get the surround sound going. Let's get the audio that's functional in the house, and he'll make it happen for you. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. You can check them out online, avssla.com, avssla.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink, or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
The best kept secret in
the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson Seafood, Wesley at Nicholson. Andy Isco joins us from Las Vegas, and we do first class, second class, no class. Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson's 11 a.m. Tuesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Let's talk a little baseball here before we get into sound from Blake Baker, LSU's defensive coordinator. He joined Jacob and T-Bob on Off the Bench this morning and had some really interesting things to say that we'll get to here in the next segment. But Jay Johnson and his staff continue to work the transfer portal to try to put together the next iteration of the LSU baseball team. Not a program, team building at this point, as Jay Johnson says, and that's what they're trying to do. And we understand that they've been very, very heavy in the transfer portal. Previous to this week, Jacob Myers from Nicholls State, Eddie Yamin from Dayton, Chris Stanfield from Auburn, Luke Hayden from Indiana State, Devin Sheeran from Mount St. Manny, Zach Cohen from Wofford, Luis Hernandez from Indiana State, Chandler Dorsey from South Florida, all names that they had in the boat, and LSU has added to that over the last few days. We'll start with Dalton Beck. Dalton Beck, an outfielder from Incarnate Word, who's got an interesting story. He began his career at Grayson College, where he made, as a freshman, 12 pitching appearances. He also hit .380 with 9 home runs. So Kansas State takes him. And while at Kansas State in his second collegiate season, he pitched. He made 3 starts. He threw 5 2/3 innings, gave up 9 earned runs. That's all you can really find on his time at Kansas State. And then he transfers from Kansas State to Incarnate Word. And Incarnate Word, they're in the Southland Conference. He says, well, I'm just going to hit. And he hit a lot. He led the Southland Conference in slugging percentage. He led the Southland Conference in hits. He led the Southland Conference in RBI. He led the Southland Conference in home runs. He was the Southland Conference Player of the Year. For the season, Dalton Beck hit .377. He got on base at a .433 clip. He slugged .716, which put his OPS over 1,100, which is really, really, really good. He had 18 home runs, and he struck out 42 times in 57 games with Incarnate Word. Now, those numbers are fantastic. He's a left-handed hitter. He's an outfielder. He's a third-year college player. He's older.
Great last name.
Great last name. Many people are saying that's a very important thing in scouting. And so, yeah, there you go. Dalton Beck checks a lot of boxes. I made a call to someone I know who watches a lot of baseball in that conference, and what I got was he can really hit, but the numbers are inflated by Incarnate Word's ballpark. I said, okay, noted. Let me go look. So he had 18 home runs. How many of them were at Incarnate Word's ballpark? Well, 13 of his 18 home runs were at home. That makes some sense. And look, that's not uncommon in college baseball based on the facilities you may have here or there. Some are massive, some are tiny. It just kind of is what it is. But what I was told was basically like, he can hit. He's a good hitter. It's not some like complete joke bandbox where everybody at Incarnate Word hits 15 to 18 home runs. That's not what the case is. But the power numbers are inflated. And when you take Southland pitching and then you plug him into that ballpark, that's going to improve his stock and what he looks like statistically. But he's a guy that's got a chance to be a really good hitter, and LSU's looking for that. I feel pretty good about the talent level of LSU's pitching staff right now. The question is, how are they going to score runs? And when you look at what they're losing, you understand that offense is going to be paramount. Tommy White is gone. Hayden Travinski is gone. You feel like there's a good chance Jared Jones is not back. Okay, where's all your offense going to come from? And they've done a pretty good job of amassing some talented upside guys. It would surprise me if Dalton Beck, Eddie Yaman, and Luis Hernandez were all stars on next year's team. That would surprise me. But if one of them is a complete bust and two of them can really play, I think you've done your job. If two of them are complete busts and one can really play, that's maybe a miss. And, if all three of them fail to translate to the next level, well, you've really got struggles on the offense because you're going to count on a lot of really, really young guys who haven't done a lot. But I feel like they've done a pretty good job of finding home runs and pop from the right side with Luis Hernandez. Yaman's got really good frame and some good power numbers from Dayton. And then Beck was uber productive from the left-handed side of the plate in the Southland Conference and was the best hitter in that league this year statistically. So I feel like there's good reason to take a chance on Dalton Beck here. And the last guy here is Connor Benge. Connor Benge is a 6-foot, 180-pound right-hander who spent his first collegiate year at LSU Eunice. And he was really the best pitcher on a phenomenal LSU team. I think they went 53-5 or something, like something crazy. They do that a lot over at LSU Eunice, but it was a great team. He threw 70 1/3 innings for that team at the JUCO level, had 86 strikeouts and just 36 walks. Opponents hit under 200 against him at LSU. So he takes that and goes up a level to Dallas Baptist. And at Dallas Baptist in 2024, he threw 33 innings, allowed 33 hits, and 24 runs. 21 of them were earned. That means his ERA was 5.73. In those 33 innings, 35 strikeouts, and 22 walks, 268 batting average against. Those numbers are not great. In fact, they're not even really all that good. Dallas Baptist plays a weird schedule where they play hodgepodge of teams on the weekend and really dial things up in the midweek, and they play a lot of the Big 12 teams in their area. And Benge's numbers are not great, but there's real upside. Even though he's small at 6 feet 180, he's a guy that was throwing his fastball in the upper 90s consistently last year. He would sit 95-ish, but there was, generally speaking, every outing, some 97s and 98s that you would see. And that's worth a shot. I realize that the walk numbers are a little high. I realize the batting average against is a little high. I realize the ERA is a lot high, really, for what he was asked to do at Dallas Baptist. But there is some ability. And I'm going to continue to talk about this when LSU takes pitchers from lower levels. I'm not expecting any of them, not one single one of them, to look like Paul Skenes. I'm going to be pretty clear about that. I'm not expecting any of these guys to ever, the rest of the time I watch LSU baseball, look like Paul Skenes. However, when you think about the environment that some of these guys are in at Air Force or Dallas Baptist or Nicholls State or Indiana State or wherever the case may be, and you look at the infrastructure that LSU has, there is enough proof based on performance in Baton Rouge that guys have the ability to better themselves when they get here. It doesn't happen to every single one. And again, I don't think any of them are going to look like Skenes. But when you've never had a pitch lab, and you've never had that kind of data and metrics, you've never had that kind of nutrition department and that kind of weight staff, you never had this kind of money that's flooded the program that you're competing in and developing in, there's always a chance that you could really take off. And I think there's reasonable expectation that some of these guys like Chandler Dorsey from South Florida, Zach Cohen from Wofford, Devin Sheeran from Mount St. Mary's, Luke Hayden, Indiana State, and then Myers from Nicholls State and Benge from Dallas Baptist. Again, I don't expect all those guys to be contributors next year. But if 4 of them are, and they develop from what they were at stop 1 to stop 2, that's a big deal. I gave you my skepticism on Myers because when you lead the nation in walks for 2 years, it's really hard for me to suggest you're going to tighten that thing up really good. But the rest of the guys have found some strike zone and have had a little bit more success. That's not fair. Myers has had phenomenal success at Nicholls. That walk number I can't get out of my head, and I'll just be completely honest with you. With Benge, like I can live with the 268 batting average against. I can live with the 573 ERA. Those are numbers that can be manipulated with some bad luck or some bad fortune or maybe some poor defense or lack of development. you just can't throw it to the plate very often. Like that burns my brain with Myers. But I'm hopeful that he's dominant because his strikeout numbers are awesome and the stuff is really good. But to get back to my point that I'm rambling through, like these guys from a pitching perspective, I really think that LSU can help them a ton. Because when you're pitching, like hitting is completely dependent upon the pitcher. Like your entire bat is dictated by the pitcher, where he throws it, how hard he throws it. Like when you're pitching, like you're just playing with the catcher. If the guy in the box gets the bat in the way, like you can't control that. So pitching to me is a little bit more translatable when you start talking about stuff and ability because you take some variables out. In hitting, like you don't. It's completely dependent on that. Pitching, a good pitch is a good pitch. So I'm hopeful with some of these high upside guys they've brought in that Nate Yeske and the environment that LSU can create from a development standpoint and a resources standpoint can really help these guys flourish. And so that's where LSU is right now. And I think that you should anticipate that LSU will add a catcher. I'm still hopeful on an infielder or two. I feel like they've got a lot in the outfield right now, but if there's a good player that shows up and thinks he can play, you would still take him. You don't have to be down to the number 4 opening day until after this semester's over. So if LSU goes over that number by a touch, like I think that's quite frankly a smart thing to do. I think it's a smart thing to bring in as many options as you can when you've got this ability in the transfer portal. So LSU adds Dalton Beck, an outfielder from Incarnate Word, and Connor Binge, a right-handed pitcher from Dallas Baptist, in the transfer portal over the weekend. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. GCOPnet.com is the website, GCOPnet.com. Shout out to Trey Beal and our folks over at Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, they've got you covered. I tell you this all the time. You can work with the big box scores, and they're probably not going to have a great relationship with you. You're going to be a line item on the balance sheet. You might not get them the first time you make a phone call, but they got a lot of resources. You can work with the mom and pop shop, but they may not be able to meet all of your needs, even though they'll answer the phone and form a great relationship with you. There's pros and cons to both of those. That's why you split the difference right there with Gulf Coast Office Products. They're big enough to service all of your printing, scanning, copying needs. They've got $1 million of inventory right here on the floor in Baton Rouge. They've got technicians and sales reps all over the state of Louisiana. They can be there to help you whenever you're in your time of need. And we're talking about a fantastic group of people that have a great relationship with their clients. Trey Beal works with dozens of clients all over the state of Louisiana, and he works with someone that's in your line of work, whether you're in law, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're like us at a media company, whether you're in education, banking, whatever the case may be. Trey Beal and his team have clients in your line of work and can help you with your needs from a printing, scanning, copying needs. We all need those machines all throughout the office. Gulf Coast Office Products can help you with them. GCOPnet.com. Take a time out. When we come back, we'll hear from what Blake Baker had to say on the morning show this morning as he gets ready to lead this Tiger defense for the first time. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Aches and pains are inevitable. It's just going to happen. Whether you're a youth athlete that's been injured or whether you're in your 60s and just looking to try to get back out on the pickleball court or the golf course because you've got an injury that's just been nagging. Evolve Physical Therapy, Robbie Bolt and his team are here for you. Evolve Physical Therapy is the place to get your physical therapy in Baton Rouge. He tells me this all the time. A lot of folks have bad experiences in physical therapy. They're ordered to go to X place. They go into that place. Say, yeah, this is what's been hurting. Okay, here's 4 or 5 exercises. I'll be back in half an hour. We'll see how you're doing. Here's some exercises. Do these at home. If that's been your experience and you have not had a physical therapist that's been hands-on, please go to Evolve Physical Therapy. Robbie Bolt and his team are hands-on from start to finish. They are not going to walk away to go handle some paperwork. They are not going to tell you to go home and do all this. They're going to make sure that they handle your situation and get you back to being your active self as quickly as possible. He says, once I see you, I will see you forever. And that's the case because he does such a great job over at Evolve Physical Therapy. It's evolvept.com. That's the website, evolvept.com. They're on Starring near Highland Road. Robbie Bolton, almost 20 years in physical therapy. Evolve Physical Therapy in sports.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
Musso wishing you a happy 4th of July weekend from all of us here at AFR. We're taking the long weekend ourselves, but we're back on Monday. Matt returns from vacation, gets caught up on everything that he missed. It's Monday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Big news in Paul Skenes and Livy Dunn world. We'll talk about that in 15 minutes. But let's talk some football. Jacob and T-Bob back in action this morning on OTB, and they had Blake Baker come on and join them for about 15 minutes. Of course, Blake Baker spent some time at LSU's linebackers coach, then moved on and has had a couple stops since, including a defensive coordinator gig up there at Missouri, and now has been tasked with overhauling Brian Kelly's defense and making it a little bit more respectable than we saw last year. And I thought the interview was incredibly well done by Jacob and T-Bob. I thought it was really, really fascinating, some of the things that Blake Baker had to say. And the first thing that we'll hear from Blake Baker on is his staff. I want to be, before we get to the soundbite, like, I don't know what to make of LSU's defense last year. I don't know how much of it was coaching. I don't know how much of it was poor evaluation and recruiting. I don't know how much of it was poor evaluation in the transfer portal. I don't know how much of it was poor game planning Don't know how much of it was poor execution. I don't know how much of it was injury related. It was probably a little bit of all of it. But I think we probably have not forgotten, that's the wrong word. We probably don't fully remember how bad it was. I cannot recall an LSU team on the football field that made me as apathetic as I was when LSU was on defense last year for the first 10 weeks of the season. Like, when Missouri was going right up and down the field every single time, I could not even get upset. I would just sit there and chuckle, be like, this is unbelievable. Like, how could I be upset? How could I have any expectation that they would get a stop when they couldn't stop Florida State ever, Ole Miss ever, or Missouri ever? Now, finally, they showed up late in that game against Missouri and got a couple of stops. Perkins made a play. They finally made a couple of stops. But there was a point there where I was just going, this is not even worth engaging with emotionally. And I got to do a post-game show on this. And so I don't know exactly why that happened, but it was really, really bad. And it was evident that they needed to make some significant changes in a hurry. And Brian Kelly did. He basically let go of the entire defensive staff. And position by position, they stacked it back up after hiring Blake Baker. And this is what Blake Baker had to say about the staff that's now accompanying him on the defensive side of the ball.
The one thing, having experience with all four of these guys that I'm about to mention, I can say from the bottom of my heart, I do believe we have the best defensive staff in the country. Yeah. And that's not only just from an X's and O's standpoint, but the way they're able to build relationships with the players, the way they're able to get the most out of their players is second to none.
And I don't know if that's true or not. It's subjective that LSU has the best defensive staff in the country. And I would expect that there are quite a few defensive staff members around the country that would suggest they have the best defensive staff in the country. So I don't really care necessarily if it's the best or the second best or the fourth best. What I can tell you is, in terms of skins on the wall and reputation in the sport, it's pretty impressive. A lot of people know who Corey Raymond is. You driving around listening to me in the car or on YouTube listening to me after the fact. I mean, how many defensive backs coach in college football can you name? I think a bunch of non-LSU folks can name Corey Raymond. How many defensive line coaches in the country can you name? Not a lot. I feel like there are quite a few that can name Bo Davis. Blake Baker has had a pretty meteoric rise here over the last 5 years, from his time at Miami and then to LSU and then up to Missouri, back to LSU. He's earned some skins on the wall. And so I can't sit here and tell you that LSU has the best defensive staff in the country, but I can tell you that they've got a lot of guys that are proven to be very quality defensive coaches, and that is comforting. The previous staff, yeah, you had some name recognition there. You had some guys that had been in the NFL. You also had some guys who were very, very early in their career, and it just kind of swallowed them up. They just couldn't quite get it together. This group feels like they're going to tighten that up pretty quickly. Just a matter of what the dudes are that they've got. T-Bob made a point to ask Blake Baker about Damone Clark, and we're not going to necessarily dive too deeply into that, but I think a lot of you realize just how good a turnaround Damone Clark had under Blake Baker, and he became a 130-tackle player. And that's the position that Blake Baker is going to be asked to coach this time around. And you've got, obviously, Greg Penn there, and then he mentioned Harold Perkins in this interview as well. But I think there are some more guys that he expects to play, and Whit Weeks is one of those, but potentially his older brother as well. And this was Blake Baker talking about his inside linebackers.
I feel extremely confident in our inside linebacker room. The one guy, to me, that I think you're hearing it first on July 8th, but I think he's really been slept on is West Weeks. I think he had an outstanding spring. But when you talk about those four guys, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think all four of them have different skill sets. All four of them are really, really good college football players. So that's one of the challenges for me, honestly, going into fall camp is you want to get guys really good at a position. And then once they do that, now it's okay, how can we move these pieces of the puzzle around? How can we get them on the field more often together? And that's something that we're definitely toying with throughout the month of July and going into fall camp, because I think those are 4 of our best players on defense.
You got a chance there to be pretty good at linebacker. I think Greg Penn is a very, very functional player. I say this a lot, but I think it's a good visual for me and hopefully a good kind of metaphor for you. Baseball's got a stat called WAR. It's wins above replacement. You can have a minus, you're worse than average. You can have a plus, you're better than average. If you're Mike Trout, you've got a monster wins above replacement. If you're Juan Soto, you've got a monster wins above replacement. If you're the 4th outfielder for the Pirates, you're going to have a negative WAR. I think Greg Penn, as SEC inside linebackers go, is about a 0 WAR. I think he's about average. I don't think he's going to be the first team all-league backer. I don't think he's a complete disaster who's a liability out there. I think he's right there on average. And I think that Harold Perkins has a chance to be much better than that. I think Whit Weeks has a chance to be much better than that. And those are the 3 guys I expect to get the most playing time. But he mentioned West Weeks there. And West Weeks is a freshman at Virginia, got 1 start, made 31 tackles on the year. And he's come here to LSU, and while he's played in 27 games, he hasn't started any, and he's been kind of a special teams guy who's played a little bit of mop-up duty, but he's not deficient really in any way other than production. He's 6'2", 240 pounds. He's a senior. He plays hard. He's played some special teams and a little bit of defense. Like, if that's your second team inside backer, like that's not a guy that's unproven. That's not a guy that is 20 pounds under his playing weight. I'm glad to hear that West Weeks had a really nice spring, because that's a guy who may have to play a little bit if there are some injuries or whatnot. But I feel like he does have a point that Perkins, Penn, and the 2 Weeks really do give you a nice core at inside linebacker, and hopefully those guys play very, very well. I painted a little bit of an optimistic picture there at linebacker, and we all know what the situation is at defensive line. And Blake Baker alluded to that and said, some people think we're going to be the 85 Bears. I have to temper those conversations a little bit. But I was comforted by one of the things he said about what they've got at defensive tackle, and this was kind of his answer, talking about the interior defensive line.
At the defensive tackle position, I'd say we're going to be, by committee. I think there's a bunch of different body types. There's a bunch of different skill sets. Again, it's going to be a little more difficult on me knowing I got to figure out who's in the game, when they're in the game, and then try to call the game according to those skill sets and matchups. But I look at what we did at Missouri the last 2 years, and we really rotated 4 inside guys. 3 of them were seniors. None of them got drafted. All good college football players, but not the elite of the elite. And we're going to be creative with them, using their skill sets, moving them around, pre-snap and post-snap, being able to stun them and use some of their quickness, maybe where they lack size, or a guy like Tank who has great size and strength. Again, not moving him as much. So it'll be a little bit more onus on me as the play caller.
I liked that answer a lot. It gave me a little bit of solace to hear that he fielded what people thought was a quality defense at Missouri, and his interior defensive tackles were not draftable players, were seniors. He didn't need third-round draft choices and future Pro Bowlers to field a functional defense. I don't mean this as a slight. I really don't. I'm just making a comparison that I think most of y'all will understand. I think John Chavis had a brilliant career as an SEC defensive coordinator. I thought the players he coached at LSU were exceptional. And then he went to A&M and they didn't have him, and it got a little worse. And then he went to Arkansas and he had nothing, and it was terrible. And you see how obviously great players make great coaches, but there are some coaches that need that level of player to get things done. And towards the end, John Chavis didn't have him and couldn't coach him. I take a little bit of solace in the fact that Blake Baker's going, look, I've had 4th and 5th year college players on my defensive line who were never going to make the Titans practice squad. But we figured it out because they could do some things. I had to get a little bit more creative. I understand if I've got Jacoby and Guillory out there, he's not moving anywhere. If I've got some other guys out there that do move a little bit better, like Paris Shand, maybe we need to stunt him because he's better when he comes off a stunt. Maybe they confuse the offensive front as opposed to just winning a battle one-on-one or one-on-two. I'm not saying it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy about the LSU defensive line, but I liked that quote. It's going, hey, I've done this a different way. We're going to have to do that this time around at LSU. I think the goal would be to not have to do anything super creative or super fancy or to try to camouflage a perceived talent disadvantage. Eventually, we'll just go up there and whip your butt at the line of scrimmage and win the game. But for right now, we might have to do it a little differently, and I've done that before. I like that answer from Blake Baker. Final thing that we've got here from the LSU defensive coordinator is talking about this summer and scouting Southern Cal, who LSU will play in the opener on Labor Day weekend.
I looked at USC probably more so than I have in seasons past this opener, just because I've never gone against Lincoln before. So kind of getting a feel for what he likes to do. I know a lot of their personnel is turned over. And honestly, I had this conversation with another defensive coordinator yesterday. I would say, like, the summer scouting, even 5 to definitely 10 years ago, has changed just because of the transfer portal. You know, the glimpse you might get on a personnel, you might be from a spring game, you know, aired on ESPN or SEC network or what have you. So, but with USC, obviously, the opponent, and then my first time going against Coach Riley, definitely studied them more than probably I have openers in the past.
I think that's fascinating too, because this game is so important to LSU to go up there and win. And I think we all understand this perfectly, but if there was ever anyone who thought that you could really glean something game plan-wise from the spring game, Blake Baker saying the only thing I've got on some guys is watching the spring game should indicate, they're not going to show you much there. If that's what the only thing the coaches have to game plan on, probably going to avoid that to a degree on spring game day. So just some thoughts from Blake Baker. If you're looking for LSU football content, you can find it on YouTube. Hunt on LSU is our channel. Come back and close out hour number 1. Huge honor for a former Tiger, and one that we thought might be a former Tiger is deciding to come back one more year. We'll talk about that next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win, so download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with LeBears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be, where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case
for the Tuesday at Nicholson. Andy Isco joins us from Las Vegas, and we do first class, second class, no class. Live at lunch from Mike Anderson's 11 a.m. Tuesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Huge day. Big league career yesterday, and it's well-deserved. Paul Skenes to this point in the big leagues, 5-0, with a 2.12 earned run average, 59 in the third innings pitched, 78 strikeouts, and a whip right at 1. He's been sensational and a deserving all-star, in my opinion. And now, I've said a few times since Paul Skenes started dominating professional hitters and then got to the big leagues and has been as good as he's been, that last year we were watching a pro play against college players. Like, that's what it would look like if we took one of the guys from the professional ranks and dropped them into the college game. And now I feel even stronger about this because not only do I think we were watching a pro, I think we were watching one of the better pros. Not the best pitcher in the league, not the best pitcher on the planet, just an all-star caliber player. Now, he's gotten better over the year's time. He was pitching in Omaha in June of last year, and he was dominating big league hitters in June of this year, and he's throwing that splinker, and he's better than he was a year ago. But I still think if you would have taken him off the mound against Arkansas in Tiger Stadium and plugged him in 5 days later at Dodger Stadium, he would have been one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball that day. And I say that because, and Beck, I'll let you chime in here because I think you'll get this. I think that I watch more Major League Baseball than most of our listenership. Now, I don't ever watch anybody that's not the Cubs, but I watch the Cubs 5 times, 6 times a week. That's more Major League Baseball than most of our audience watches. And Jameson Taillon is right in the middle of the Cubs rotation, and he's a very, very serviceable Major League pitcher. He has pitched for the Pirates. He's pitched for the Yankees. Pitches for the Cubs. He's big. He throws 94 and 95 miles an hour. Got 2 different breaking balls. There are times he goes out there and strikes out 10 in 6 innings. There are times he can't get out of the 3rd inning. He is a 3rd or 4th starter on every rotation in Major League Baseball. He's perfectly fine. And I think if you put Jameson Taillon in the SEC last year, his numbers would not have been as good as Paul Skenes. And if you put Paul Skenes in the Cubs rotation last year, Paul Skenes would have been better. And that's in college. I think that is almost inarguable.
I think that's a very fair point to make, is just comparatively stuff-wise. Jameson Taillon has really good stuff, but Skenes just has better stuff.
And did when he was in school.
Yep.
Like, you got guys, I mean, rookies in the NBA, outside of a couple of them, like, can't really help. And rookies in the NFL can have a really, really tough time. Some are really good, but have a really tough time. And rookies in professional baseball play in single A. They play in double A. They don't make the all-star team. Paul Skenes, the first ever to go from the number 1 overall pick to the all-star team the next summer. This was just an exceptional thing that we got to watch in Baton Rouge that I don't know that you'll see anytime soon. Maybe Hagen Smith does it next year. He's not going to be the first pick in the draft, but we saw him torch the SEC, and Arkansas actually had a better league record in Hagen Smith starts than LSU did in Paul Skenes' start. Arkansas was 9-1, and LSU was 8-2. But in terms of what he was able to do, like, it was remarkable to sit there and watch, and well earned for Paul Skenes to be an all-star. And we'll see, hopefully, I don't know what his schedule looks like as far as when he's going to pitch and when the all-star game is in a couple of weeks and whether or not he'll actually be able to pitch in that game. Certainly if he pitches, on Sunday, he's not going to pitch in that game coming up on that Tuesday. But we'll see. Hopefully he's able to go out there and pitch against the best American League hitters.
He's scheduled, or actually he pitched Friday, and then I think he will pitch again. So he pitched Friday, then he would pitch 5 days after. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's scheduled to pitch Wednesday, July 10th. So
he might be ready to go.
Maybe ready to go.
We'll see. And also, regarding Paul Skenes, an announcement from the Livy Dunn camp today via her social media. Livy Dunn will come back to compete with LSU gymnastics as they try to defend a national championship. That surprises me. When you see Livy Dunn out at the white party with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and the LSU crew, and you see the trips that she goes on and the things she does, and now that her boyfriend is in Major League Baseball and traveling the country, I would think that in Sociology 1002 would not be something she wanted to come back and do. I think she wants to do gymnastics. I feel like she's got all the career stuff she needs to make money on social media, but good for Livy and good for LSU Gym that she will be back in action. We'll pause for Sports Center. Back with hour number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Dan Hurley sticking around Stores for the foreseeable future as UConn looks to build the next men's college basketball dynasty. School announced Hurley, coming off back-to-back national titles with the Huskies, has agreed to a new 6-year, $50 million contract. Hurley, who turned down the Lakers last month, has the opportunity to receive performance incentives throughout the course of his deal. Coming off a breakout NBA season, 22-year-old Timberwolves superstar Anthony Edwards made a pretty bold claim when asked about his role on the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team for the Paris Summer Games.
I'm still the #1 option. Yeah, I mean, y'all might look at it differently. I don't look at it no differently. Yeah. I just go out there and be myself, shoot my shots, play defense, and, you know, they got to fit in and play around me. That's how I feel.
Anthony Edwards, the youngest player on the U.S. roster. Among those he will be playing alongside in Paris, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. Tennis, after dropping the first 2 sets, American Taylor Fritz beat Alexander Zverev to advance to the men's quarterfinals at Wimbledon. He next faces Lorenzo Musetti.
Here's one stat that's super simple to remember. Discover automatically doubles the cash back on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cash Back Match. With Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Zach Nagy from LSU Country is going to be with us in 15 minutes talking a little bit of recruiting. I've got a segment scheduled here. We're going to talk about Josh Pate's top 10 programs in college football over the next 3 years because everybody got cranky about it. But I'm going to play a game with myself here because I just got an email and I have the SEC Media Days attendees. I have not looked at LSU's, and we're going to see if I can get this right. Now, there was a time in a previous life when I was covering the team day-to-day on the ground, doing interviews, going to press conferences, that kind of stuff, that I knew these players pretty well, got a sense for who liked doing media, who did not like doing media, who they might send for this reason or another. It's not, generally speaking, just the 3 best players on the team. At times there are leadership qualities that are brought in. At times there are guys that like doing media. Sometimes there's a really good player that doesn't like at all to do media or isn't comfortable with that. And so I don't know all of that information, but I'm going to give it a shot. I quickly jotted down my potentials here, Beck. We'll see what you think. On offense, the potentials I think are Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Garrett Nussmeier, Kyron Lacey, and Mason Taylor. Like, does that feel like?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, Josh Williams.
Yeah, Josh
I didn't think about Josh Williams.
That's a good one.
That's one that's got to be on the list. You can tell I just did this like right off the top of my head because that's an obvious one to think about. From defense, I got Harold Perkins, Greg Penn, Jacobian Guillory, and Major Burns.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so I'm going to work off that list. I'm going to go with Will Campbell, Josh Williams, and Greg Penn.
So no Nussmeier.
No Nuss, no Perk.
Okay.
No Emory Jones. That's my guess. All right. There's Kentucky's, there's LSU's. Garrett Nussmeier first on the list. See, quarterback is going.
I was really expecting that.
He hasn't played. I mean, I'm thrilled that I think Matt has said this for years that every team should have to send their quarterback because they, generally speaking, have the most information about what's going on in terms of like off-season workouts and Yeah, they're kind of the face of the program more often than not. So Garrett Nussmeyer's first, Mason Taylor second. So I was 0 for 2 on offense, even though I had both of them written down. And Harold Perkins will be the third representative as a linebacker. So that's a clean 0 for 3 from me.
Solid.
Oh, well. I had them all written down. I just
You
didn't
did.
pick them. So, all right, that's interesting. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. But Garrett Nussmeier, Mason Taylor, and Harold Perkins will represent LSU at SEC Media Days next week in Dallas. All right, the internet got really cranky from an LSU perspective. I saw some of this on Twitter. I saw some of this on the On3 message board. I saw some of this on Tiger Droppings. Like, everybody says Josh Pate is an idiot. Why is Josh Pate an idiot? Because he came out with his top 10 over the next 3 years in college football. As he describes it on Twitter, it's a rolling 3-year blend of record, talent acquisition, resource pool, and culture. And so when he put that together, it's actually top 15. Over the next 3 years, he's got Georgia 1, Bama 2, Ohio State 3, Oregon 4, Texas 5, Florida State 6, Notre Dame 7, Oklahoma 8, Michigan 9, A&M 10, LSU 11, Tennessee 12, Miami 13, Clemson 14, and Penn State at 15. So LSU comes in there at number 11. And that made people super cranky. Clickbait, hack, Bama homer, LSU hater, whatever the case may be, that is how people feel about Josh Pate putting this together. I've always been interested at how viscerally some people can react to a list on the internet and not only suggest that you might disagree with the list, but to actually go as far as to say that the person who put together the list is unprofessional or an idiot or a hack, all these kinds of things. I find that humorous. It's just a guy who talks about college football who put a list together. Like, it's just not that big a deal, but people find it to be a very, very big deal. And I've read a lot of denigrating language toward Josh Pate because of this. And one guy said that he would dip his private parts in battery acid if Miami was better than Oklahoma State over the next 3 years. So there are people that have that to say as well. I'm not going to be quite as extreme as any of that. I would offer this. It's tough for me to pull Georgia off the top spot. Kirby's young. They're dominant. He's got incredible recruiting classes. Good quarterback for right now. I have a hard time pulling them off the top. I don't know if I would put Alabama number 2. That feels a little generous to me for Kalen DeBoer. Yes, he's won everywhere. Nothing has been like the place he's about to walk into. So I would have a little bit of a tougher time putting them at 2. I would probably put Ohio State at 2, who he's got at number 3, based on the consistency that Ryan Day has put out there. Yes, Michigan has absolutely knocked them across the jaw 2 consecutive years. That Michigan, as we know it, I don't believe exists anymore. I believe that had to do with the head coach and not having that head coach, all the while changing quarterbacks and losing a lot of talent off that defensive front. Feels like there's going to be a step back there. And Ohio State is not having any problem with Penn State or Purdue or Wisconsin. They're not having any problems with Indiana or Minnesota. And I don't think they're going to have a ton of problems with UCLA. And right now, I don't think they'd have a monster issue with USC either. So I feel pretty good about Ohio State. I would have them up there. And you feel like there's, while it's not exactly sustained excellence, a reasonable expectation that Texas and Oregon are going to be pretty good. They're recruiting at elite levels. Their NIL programs are exceptional. Phil Knight is openly saying he's giving out nearly endless amounts of dollars to Oregon student athletes right now. That feels pretty sustainable until it's not. So right now it is. And those 2 teams back them up. Florida State, okay, I need to keep seeing it. 2 good teams there, no question. 2 good teams. They just fielded. Beat LSU fair and square both times. But, if you're going to knock Michigan all the way down to 9, like, they at least climbed the mountain. Notre Dame at 7, Oklahoma at 8. I can't go Oklahoma at 8 either. Brent Venables has been a head coach all of 2 years. The first one was an absolute disaster. They're leaning heavy on a really young quarterback this year. And they're moving into a league that doesn't allow them to play Kansas State, Kansas, TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor over and over and over again. Quite the opposite. You're playing Saturday night in Death Valley. You're playing Texas. And you're playing Georgia and Tennessee. Like, they're really good teams on your schedule. I think they don't play Georgia. Don't know it off the top of my head, but they do play Tennessee. They do play Alabama. They do play LSU. They still play Texas. Like, it's going to be tough to sustain excellence there. And one of the 2 years that Brent Venables has been at the top hasn't been great. Texas A&M at 10 is, in my opinion, a big-time nod to money and really not much else. He believes in Mike Elko based on a short sample size at Duke. Again, that's in the ACC. I think Mike Elko is a good coach. Do I think that's a top 10 program in the nation over the next 3 years? I think it could be. I'm not ready to necessarily say that it is. And in the same way that he's valuing the money aspect of how this thing works with Texas A&M, he's really suggesting that if you don't play that game well and you don't use the transfer portal, I don't care that you have multiple national championships. Clemson, you're back at 14. I think LSU is pretty fairly placed here. I could shuffle those deck chairs around a little bit, and I could get LSU into the top 8. But let's be clear. Like, they fielded a phenomenal offense last year and lost 3 games because the defense was historically atrocious. And I hope that they can continue to have that offense cooking while you move those 3 pieces out. And I hope that the defense makes a huge jump. But if I told you that LSU's offense ranked 31st in the country this year, that wouldn't be mortifying. And if I told you that LSU's defense this year finished 80th, you wouldn't be totally shocked. And I think that's probably 3 or 4 losses. I'm hopeful that it's not. I'm hopeful the offense is 9th and the defense is 38th. And then all of a sudden, you're in the playoff. And that's not out of the question either. But there's a little more volatility there than there is at Texas, at Oregon, at Ohio State, at Georgia. And he thinks at Bama. You're in a club, in my opinion, with Notre Dame, with Oklahoma, with Tennessee, with some of these teams that, yeah, they're good teams. Good teams have some big wins over the last 3 years. Also, inconsistent. And really, what's the difference in 8 and 11? Like, would that make you feel better? Because if you start telling me that LSU's in the top 5, I have a hard time getting there with you. If you tell me they're not in the top 15, I have a hard time getting there with you. I think it's completely fair. But it's just it's the way people think that you're automatically slighted by every media member if they don't anoint you elite. It's why people always say they hate the play-by-play person, they hate the color analyst, hate the newscaster, hate the radio host. I've never been that visceral about it all, but I was surprised to see that LSU was ranked 11th and that the message board warriors were out in full force on it. I'd probably put A&M behind LSU. I'd probably put Oklahoma behind LSU. But at that point, I've gotten you to 9. Is there a big difference in 9 and 11? Probably not. Either way, if you are actually 11, you're the last playoff spot with the group of 5. So, what he's actually saying is, you're a playoff team the next 3 years. You should rejoice in that. You should celebrate that. Not yell at Josh Pate. He's a nice young man. Little tongue-in-cheek there, but you get the point. LSU ranked number 10 by Josh Pate. If you want to check out the entire segment, you can do that on his YouTube channel. Josh does a great job putting out college football content each and every day, and we're about to jump into that full speed ahead coming up media days 1 week from today. When we come back, let's talk some recruiting on the LSU side of things. Zach Nagy covers LSU for LSU Country, and he'll jump aboard coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, if you locked in a great interest rate a couple of years ago and you're not in a hurry to move but think that things could improve in your living situation, don't move. Just get One Bath and Closets to come in. They can do a brand new bathroom, do the entire thing, floors, plumbing, shower, whole deal. Or they can do something simple like a tub to shower conversion. Either way, it starts with that free consultation that you can find online at onebathandclosets.com. Look at the pictures of their great work, look at some testimonials from their satisfied clients, and get that process started today. What would a brand new bathroom do for your living situation? It'd be fantastic. Add value to your home, change the functionality and aesthetic of your bathroom. They can do it for you at One Bath and Closets. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning bathrooms and closets. Check them out online, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has...
It's Musso wishing you a happy 4th of July weekend from all of us here at AFR. We're taking the long weekend ourselves, but we're back on Monday. Matt returns from vacation, gets caught up on everything that he missed. It's Monday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Shout out Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products has you covered. Trey Beal and his team. Awesome, awesome, awesome people. And they can help you out. Printing, scanning, copying, whatever you need for the office, they got you covered there at Gulf Coast Office Products. All right, let's go out to Jim's Firearms Hotline. Zach Nagy covers LSU for LSU Country, part of the SI Network, and he joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Zach, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
Doing quite well. It's been a good run here over the last 72, 94 hours for LSU football on the recruiting trail, specifically on the defensive line. I know that Brad Davis on the offense, Bo Davis on the defense, had a large overhaul on his plate when he took this job. How would you assess the way he's handled that through his first half year on the job?
Yeah, man, I know a lot of people are going to sit back and talk about the transfer portal mishaps and, kind of swinging and missing on a couple different guys. But when it comes down to it, he's really cooking right now. He's really impressing a lot of people. You go out and you get three of the top defensive linemen in the country, headlined by, Damian Shanklin on the edge. He's a top 5 edge in the country per 24/7 Sports. And you got other guys like Zion Williams, who just elevated the status to a top 10 defensive lineman in the country on 3 Sports. So you got a lot of impressive guys that are coming to Baton Rouge, and it's a really good haul so far. And when he was at Texas, Bo Davis went out and signed one of the top players in the country, in Brandon Brown. He's a really impressive, or committed to Brandon Brown, and he's a really impressive guy. And he ultimately got him to flip to LSU over the weekend. So, like you said, man, a really impressive 72-hour, 84-hour stretch, going out and getting 3 of the top defensive linemen in the country. And they're not done yet. They're going to go out and get a couple more guys left. So it's an impressive haul to this point, but they're nowhere near done. They're going to continue to evaluate guys and just try to lock in as much talent as they can in the 2025 class, because he's kind of working from scratch here and building for the long haul, and he's setting the table really nicely.
When's it realistic to expect LSU to field an elite-level defensive line? How many years does that take?
For me, I'm circling 2026 as kind of that spot where you have the chance to take it to the next level. This year, you're going to see what you can do with the talent that you have, but you can give it 2 more years, and you have somebody like Dominic McKinley, who's going to be entering his junior year, somebody that the staff is super high on right now. You let the 2025 class soak in the scenes of Death Valley, get accustomed to an SEC regimen. For me, I'm circling 2026 as a point where this program can really, really hit its stride. And, with the 12-team playoff, you never know what can happen. But I really like what's going to happen in the next 2 years with this program for sure, man.
So if you think that they can't field an elite defensive line for another 2 years, which is perfectly realistic to say, what is the ceiling of this football program over the next 2 seasons if they're still trying to patch it together on the defensive front?
Look, offensively, you're elite. You bring in a lot of talent. I believe in what Garrett Nussmeier provides the offense. So there's nothing too major for me to circle when it comes to the offense. But defense, you're looking at a secondary that has some kinks that needs to work out. You have a defensive line that's starting to, you worry a little bit about the depth, but you got guys who can fill in if need be. You're going to be rotating probably 4 to 5 guys in that slot there. But for me, it's just all about chemistry, gelling. And I really think that in 2 years is when this program will hit its stride. But when you look at the ceiling for the 2024 season, 2025 season, man, with the 12-team playoff, you just never know what can happen, because you saw last year in 2023 when the offense was one of the top in the country and the defense was abysmal, and they were still kind of on the cusp. If there was a 12-team playoff, they would have been pretty close to make it. So for me, the ceiling, I really think that they could make the playoff if they click on all cylinders offensively. But the first week against USC is where you're going to really see what this program's all about.
It'll be interesting to watch that unfold right in front of our eyes, with all those questions being brought in front of one of the better offensive minds in college football. Let's continue with the defensive line, because I think it's interesting, because you can find a lot of people who feel differently. Some say, I think they're going to be okay. They've got some depth. They got some guys. You find some that say this is nowhere near an SEC defensive front. They're going to get gashed. How do you think it looks in terms of a rotation and the kind of production that they get on the defensive front as the season moves forward?
I think you have guys that can certainly enter the mix and be impressive. Jacobian Guillory, to me, you can pencil in as a starter. He looked extremely impressive during spring ball when we had the chance to evaluate him, and he's just really taken on a leadership role. So I love what Jacobian Guillory provides this program. And then, that next slot next to him is where it gets a little confusing, a little interesting for me, just because Dominic McKinley's already bulked up 30, 35 pounds. He's sitting at roughly 6'6", 315 right now. And to in comparison. He was 285 his senior year of high school. So he certainly put on the size. And if Bo Davis can continue to, develop him and really have him have an even better offseason come fall camp into week 1 against USC, who knows what kind of significant snaps he takes for this program. But you got a nice rotation that you can work with, headlined by J.V.R. Suggs, the Grand Valley State transfer. You also have Gio Paez from Wisconsin. So you have some guys that can step in the mix and produce for you. But when you're looking for that elite level defensive line talent, I wouldn't quite say that we're there yet, but you have some guys that can step in the mix and have a decent rotation for the 2024 season for sure.
How much of this may be an unfair question to ask, but how many of last year's issues and concerns can be alleviated simply with coaching staff turnover that it is this new staff?
A lot, a lot, man. A lot of people would sit back and I'm not going to throw any names, but definitely some schematic issues last season where you didn't quite get the most out of your talent in 2023 on the defensive side of the ball. So now you bring in a fresh-faced coaching staff who's going to, flip the script with schemes and, different type of looks and variations, and you try to maximize a player of maximize somebody like Harold Perkins and his potential, because I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential there with him. So certainly, I think with a new coaching staff, there can be a lot of differences, and I look forward to seeing what Blake Baker can provide because his scheme's different, his looks are different, the way he practices is different. I think you're going to get a new look defense, but coaching can only do so much. Talent's ultimately going to win you games, and I think you have guys that can be suitable for this defense, but I think it's going to take a little bit more time for them to click on all cylinders, and I think come SEC play, that's where you can hopefully see this team hitting its stride.
Just got the announcement of LSU's Media Day attendees for next year. It'll be Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback, Harold Perkins, linebacker, and Mason Taylor, tight end. Your reaction to those three getting the nod in Dallas?
I love it. Put Garrett Nussmeier in front of the media, let him talk, show how charismatic he is. He's a fantastic player to speak to. He's always given the perfect answer. He's fantastic. And then you can look at somebody like Harold Perkins, who doesn't really get as much time to speak with the media. I think in his time at LSU, we've only had the chance to talk to him maybe 2 times, maybe 3. So the opportunity to let him speak to the media and get more of that feel underneath his belt is super important. I love it. And Mason Taylor's obviously a class act. We know that from the jump. He's a fantastic player, fantastic person. So the opportunity to let him go to SEC Media Days is critical. So looking at those 3 guys, man, I'm really happy with the selection, and I think all 3 are going to be perfect to represent the brand and represent LSU.
He covers LSU football, recruiting, basketball, and more as a publisher over at LSU Country. You can follow him on Twitter at ZNaggy20. He is Zach Nagy. Appreciate some time, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Zach Nagy, publisher over at LSU Country, just talking a little bit about LSU football. Hadn't talked to any Saints today, so we're going to get to some of that now. NFL executives, coaches, and scouts ranked the top 10 running backs for 2024 in the NFL. Where does Alvin Kamara slot in on this list if he does? We'll talk about that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in Pin Cash every single week. Visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play and win. Not a member? Get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino, your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson Seafood, Wesley at Nicholson. Andy Isco joins us from Las Vegas, and we do first class, second class, no class. Live at Lunch from Mike Anderson's, 11 a.m. Tuesday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Coming July 15th, the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge 2K a Day Summer Cash Giveaway brought to you by Citizens Bank and Trust. Stay tuned for details on the word of the day coming the entire week of July 15th and your chance to win extra cash for the summer.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
If you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen this earlier today. I have it pinned to the top of my Twitter profile, and I'll tell you about this a couple times a week here until next Thursday. But I'm so fired up and honored to be a celebrity waiter, and we use that word very, very loosely in this sense, at the 18th Annual Celebrity Waiter event supporting the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center. And there's an online tip jar for those that can't make the event coming up next Thursday. And we would certainly appreciate any donations that we could find online from you all, the listenership. I've got a little bit of a platform here, and last year I was able to go check out the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center and see some of the work that they do, meet the people, the special people that are over there. And it's, in a sense, it's heartbreaking to understand the work that they have to do with children who have witnessed violent or sexual crimes in the home that have had such awful things happen in front of them, and the work that they do to help those children as they grow up and deal with that is just incredible. And the people that work there are just phenomenal. And I'm honored to do my part to try to help and to make that place as good as it can possibly be. And so the event again is next Thursday, and we'll be having a ton of fun over at LeBairs for all of that. If you can't make it and would be generous enough and would be kind enough to donate, I'd certainly appreciate it. Go to my Twitter profile. It's right there at the top. You can click on the huge mugshot of my head. It's headshot. And donate. No amount is too small, and I certainly appreciate Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center for reaching out to me, and I'm honored to be a part of that awesome organization this year for the 18th year. They're putting on this fantastic event. So check it out over on Twitter at HuntPalmer88 if you possibly can. ESPN came out with a great list here that I found interesting because the things that they do that are anonymous I find fascinating. They've obviously got a ton of great contacts over at ESPN, and they talk to coaches, executives, scouts, and we're ranking running backs. And I was curious where Alvin Kamara would show up. I'll say this. My thoughts on Alvin Kamara are that the Saints should not extend his contract, should not invest heavily in him. His production over the last couple of years has dropped, and I believe him to be on the downside of his career. That said, I feel more confident claiming that Derek Carr is not going to be in the top 3 in the NFL in passing, and Derek Carr's not going to throw 21 interceptions next year. Like, I know what Derek Carr's basically going to be. I don't believe that Rashid Shaheed is going to become this technician and route runner and dominant player in the slot. I think he's going to be what he is, a speed guy who hits big plays and makes game-changing plays. I don't think Foster Moreau is going to catch 11 touchdowns. Like, I think I have a good feel for what the Saints are going to be on offense. What I will say is it would surprise me the least if I was wrong about Kamara. I will leave the door open for Alvin Kamara in a new offense to prove me wrong. That would not shock me at all. If the fact that the offensive line wasn't very good the last 2 years, that the play calling and the creativity weren't very good, that the musical chairs over the last 2 seasons at quarterback between Winston and Dalton and Carr and all that they've done with that, like, maybe there's still something in there that wasn't allowed to come out because of the circumstance. I'll leave that door open. I've planted my flag where I am. If I'm wrong, I won't be stunned. So how do the folks that were polled in this ESPN story feel about it? The execs, the scouts. Well, they got Christian McCaffrey at 1. Okay, he's 28 years old, but he's been phenomenal and was massively productive last year. Breece Hall at number 2, who's 23 years old, incredibly explosive. As a rookie, he was awesome before he tore his ACL. He's averaged 4.3 yards per carry against a heavy box, which is 8 or more. Like, he's been good. Nick Chubb is at number 3. There's a lot of caveats with Nick Chubb because we know that he had a horrible knee injury last year. Who knows what he looks like now? Been a really, really good runner in the league, but he's up at 28 and coming off a major injury. But they still got him at 3. Saquon Barkley, no spring chicken. He's 27 years old. They've got him at number 4. Jonathan Taylor with the Colts, he's number 5. Bijan Robinson, this is untapped potential because the Falcons didn't really use him that much last year, but he's 22 years old, and I think that he'll be better this year. Reasonable to think number 6, that's fine. Josh Jacobs at number 7, he's younger than I thought. He's only 25 years old. Then you got Jahmyr Gibbs, incredibly explosive at Alabama. Had a rookie year where he shared a lot of carries, but kind of won that battle over the time of the season. And by the time they got to Thanksgiving, he was kind of the main guy in Detroit. He's number 8. Derrick Henry still hanging on at number 9, 30 years old. Got a new home in Baltimore. We'll see. He's got more than 2,000 carries in his career. And number 10, rounding things out, Travis Etienne. 25-year-old. Missed his whole rookie year because of an injury, but back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 16 total touchdowns, nearly 100 receptions. He's been pretty good. So Alvin Kamara does not come in on the top 10. They go to honorable mention, Aaron Jones in Minnesota, Kenneth Walker in Seattle, Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City, James Cook in Buffalo. I've now rattled off 14 names before we get to Alvin Kamara. The blurb says, Kamara has been a fixture in the top 10, ranking as high as number 2 back in 2021. But his production's been less efficient in recent seasons, averaging 3.87 yards per carry since 2021. That's about 830 yards per season. One NFL running back coach said he might have hit a little bit of a wall. He's still a great all-purpose back and can run all the different schemes, has some burst and contact, but the production hasn't been there, though I think Kubiak's system could be really good for him. That may be the biggest variable with the New Orleans Saints on offense outside of the offensive line. Olave is going to be Olave. Shaheed's going to be Shaheed. Juwan Johnson, when he comes back, is going to be that same guy. I think Foster Moreau, same deal. I think that you've kind of got what you're going to be at those skill positions. Is Alvin Kamara ready to come back and be a 1,700-yard guy? I don't think so, but can I completely rule it out? No. If they block it a little bit better, they find out that Penning can play at right tackle and can be a quality run blocker, which is what his physical build would suggest he could do. They find out that Fuanga is an NFL left tackle. And if you get better play from Cesar Ruiz and you get the same type of play at center that you feel like you should get from McCoy, maybe they're a little better running the ball and maybe holes open up in those explosive plays that simply have not been there for Alvin Kamara. He hasn't run. He's run one run over 20 yards in 2 years. You would luck into more than that, it feels like. That could be a variable that I'm not accounting for. And I would love that because it is a treat to watch Alvin Kamara play in space, or it was 8 years ago. Question is, can it be now, and can we go ahead and pin all of these issues on poor scheme and bad offensive line play? That just remains to be seen. I don't have a problem with ranking Alvin Kamara at 15. I think there's better football behind him than in front of him, but I'm holding out hope that he proves me wrong this year and comes out and has a far more productive year. We'll see. Feels like that most of the people who evaluate football kind of feel the way that I do, and let's hope that's not true. If you're looking for Saints information, Saints coverage, Saints content, you can find it on our YouTube page, Hunt on LSU. All of our Saints content is uploaded there all year long, so you don't have to wade through full shows or full podcasts. You can go right to YouTube, boom, Hunt on Saints. You can get our Saints content from that day each and every day. Appreciate Cassie and Jesse for making that happen after every single show. All right, we got one segment left to go. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, it's Take It or Leave It. And we're done here. It's on a Monday, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
I don't have to tell you, Beryl made landfall in Texas. She's dumped a ton of rain on the folks over in Houston and headed towards Shreveport right now. And my guess is that Beryl's not going to be the last storm. But you still have time to call Boudreaux's Electrical this summer. Make that call and get that Generac home standby generator installed at your home so that when the storm rolls through, you don't have to sit in a hot, dark house. You can have the AC going. You can have the lights on. Wi-Fi is functional. It's a better existence in a hurricane world when you've got that home standby generator from Boudreaux's Electrical. You will never hear me advertise for Boudreaux's Electrical and tell you, hey, for just this much a month, get the VIP package. That's not how they do business at Boudreaux's Electrical. Every customer that they have is treated like a VIP. That's just the experience at Boudreaux's Electrical. You don't have to pay additional for it. And every single Generac home standby generator that they sell you from Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty, depending on the type of generator you decide to purchase. Make that call and give yourself the peace of mind today to know that when that storm comes through, whenever that may be, you're protected from those power outages thanks to the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
It's Musso wishing you a happy 4th of July weekend from all of us here at AFR. We're taking the long weekend ourselves, but we're back on Monday. Matt returns from vacation, gets caught up on everything that he missed. It's Monday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Parish Construction and Roofing bring you live coverage of the 2024 SEC Football Media Days. We just mentioned the 3 LSU Tigers who will be there. That will start Monday, July 15th through Thursday, July 18th. Find highlights from the week of the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Our coverage is also brought to you locally by Rev Business and Relief Windows.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Shout out Trey Beal and the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products. GCOPnet.com is where you can find them. All your printing, scanning, and copying needs. Gulf Coast Office Products. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It back.
I'll take it.
I do that every now and then just because the button is right next to the song. All right, starting off here, Phillies fans cheered as Jose Altuve left Saturday's game after being hit by a pitch in the hand. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I'm not a fan of what the Astros did. That's bad. That can't happen. When we lose the competitive integrity of our sports, we lose them entirely. And so that is very, very bad. However, I find that I am very, very much conservative and very, very much in the minority among baseball fans as to the impact of throwing a baseball 100 miles an hour at someone has. People are like, oh, let them police themselves. Yeah, throw at somebody. They'll settle it. No, I don't need people throwing baseballs 100 miles an hour at other people's bodies. Like, that is bad. We're breaking hands. Yep. We're breaking wrists. We're doing worse to the face. Like, we cannot be intentionally hitting people with baseballs. I don't know that. In fact, I don't think the Phillies did that. But Philly fans, I don't need to be cheering a guy that has to leave the game because his hand hurt too. Like, no. I get it. Stros, very bad stuff. Jose Altuve goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Cheer all you want. That's fantastic. Injuries, throwing baseballs at people, not a fan.
So this was an intentional...
I don't believe so.
You don't?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, like, that's what people love. It's like, oh, yeah, just beat him. Awesome. No,
that might be the... I don't know if there's a worse unwritten rule in a sport besides throwing a baseball at someone. It's probably
breaking
the worst
ribs.
one.
I can't. That's no good.
Yep, not good. Moving on, Steph Curry says the Warriors will likely be the last NBA dynasty with Klay Thompson leaving. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I understand that there's a lot of turnover in the NBA these days. I understand that that's part of the sport now. But I'm not here to tell you that a team can't win 3 championships in 4 years moving forward like that. And that would certainly constitute as a dynasty run. So I'm not saying they're all going to look as good as the Warriors did, or they're all going to win 70-plus games in a regular season. But somebody's going to win 3 out of 4 at some point.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with a lot of the older guard leaving, some of the top guys like LeBron, the next 5 or 6 years, a lot of these top-name guys are going to be older, if not retired. And there's these newer up-and-coming stars, and they wouldn't shock me if a couple of them decide, hey, let's get on a team together and go make a dynasty just like the Warriors did. So I disagree as well. Moving on, in a bit of a twist, it's expected that Keegan Bradley, not Tiger Woods, will be named the U.S. Ryder Cup captain for the tournament next September at Bethpage Black, according to SI's Bob Herrig. Keegan over Tiger, take it or leave it.
I'll take it. It's fine. I'm not sure why Tiger decided to turn it down. It feels like it was his to have. He's already been a President's Cup captain. And
yeah, I saw in the article that Herrig wrote that he mentioned the guy who recently left the PGA Tour. One of the higher-ups left that I guess Tiger was closer. Maybe he was close with. He left. Not sure if that affected it, but I think also Tiger is on the PGA Tour policy board, so maybe I don't know if there's any kind of cross between that, but I think there was something to do with that. Maybe not. Maybe Tiger just doesn't want that responsibility. I don't know.
Look, I think he'll eventually be it. Keegan is a good choice, I think. I don't know how much the players really want to hang out with Keegan. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I do know that Keegan Bradley cares a lot about the Ryder Cup. He was devastated not to make the team last year. I think he'll care a lot about being a captain. He's a Northeast guy, and that's a Northeast crowd, and I think that he will do a good job. This was Phil Mickelson's spot. The New York crowds love Phil Mickelson. He would have been the captain at Bethpage. This absolutely would have been Phil, and he's going to go grow the game and do things that are awesome with LIV, so he's not going to be a part of it. So it's not the way it was supposed to be, but I still think Keegan is a good pick for Team USA.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think Phil would have been a great story to see him take that captaincy. But at the same time, I do really wonder if the captaincy is there's much made about it as there should be. I know that it's a big deal. Obviously, the captain picks are important. You could argue that I don't even know if you could really argue that they would have won the last Ryder Cup if the captain's picks were better. Maybe if Keegan Bradley was in there instead of a guy like Ricky Fowler.
Yeah, and look, Burns wasn't great.
No.
There are issues, but the fact of the matter is that Team USA plays like crap in Europe every time, so it doesn't matter who the captain is, it's not going to work.
Right. All right, moving on, UConn has announced a new contract with Dan Hurley that runs through the 2029-2030 season. The 6-year agreement is valued at $50 million and includes the opportunity to earn additional compensation in the form of performance and based incentives. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. It's great. But it does appear, based on reporting, that he left $20-30 million on the table with what Kentucky would have offered and what the Lakers offered. So I think it just suggests what we kind of thought. He feels good at UConn. His wife likes it there. It's a basketball school. You don't have to play second fiddle to the football coach. He's a Northeast guy. They've already got it rolling. He feels like he can do the things he needs to do from a recruiting standpoint. And there's something about being comfortable where you are and not trying to start everything over. So I think we need to realize, or at least I do, shouldn't say we and speak for everybody, but we always say fire the coach, fire the coach, fire the coach, because you can just go hire the next guy. And sometimes you can. I mean, LSU hiring Brian Kelly is a pretty big deal. Who made just a monster hire in the world of sports of late. I'm blanking on whoever the case may be, but sometimes it's hard.
The Cubs getting Craig Counsell?
I mean, that was good. That was good. It hadn't worked at all, but sometimes you can't just get the next. I mean, the Kentucky ends up with Mark Pope. That's not eye-opening at all. Sometimes you go get Jim Schlossnagle, and it's Kentucky can't just hire whoever they want. The Lakers can't just hire whoever they want. They wanted Dan Hurley, and that's the case. He's going to stay for a significant discount.
All right, next one here. Jazari Jackson has committed to Georgia to play offensive tackle. Jackson is 6'11". He will be the tallest Bulldog ever 6'11" is too tall to play tackle. Take it or leave it.
Take it. I'm not an offensive line coach. That seems like too tall. I've watched 6'11" guys move on a basketball court. I've also seen NFL pass rushers and college football pass rushers. I guess I can paint a picture where he gets his hands on Harold Perkins and locks him up, but it seems to me to be more likely that he can't get down to Harold Perkins' level. That just seems like it's too much. Apparently, this guy's been on a lot of TikToks and stuff and played AAU ball with Bronny James. But 6'11" is a tall dude to play offensive tackle. I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah, if he can move, if he can move on a basketball court, maybe he can move on the football field. But a little bit different skill set there needed, of course. All right, next one here. Anthony Edwards told reporters that he expects to be the #1 option for Team USA in the Olympics. Edwards over LeBron, Durant, and Curry. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it, sure. Why not? They don't really have a #1 option on Team USA. Like, Durant's probably going to be the guy that scores the most points because that's just what he does when he plays on a basketball team. But I don't have any problem with Anthony Edwards taking a lot of shots for Team USA. That sounds good to me. He's a pretty good player. I'm curious to see how that goes in the Olympics. We're still the best team, but the international teams are growing stronger and stronger. I think it's going to be interesting. I think now for the first time ever you could make a compelling argument and probably a correct argument that the international team would beat an American fivesome.
Yeah.
Now, they all come from different countries, and we got them coming from one, but I think it's reasonable to think that you got your team with Luka and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic and Embiid, and that's Giannis. Like, that's a tough team to beat with all Americans. We'll see.
Not surprising to hear from Edwards. He's a pretty confident guy, so not shocking that he would think he's the #1 option.
Nope. Olympics right around the corner. That'll do it for a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Got a lot of LSU talk, a lot of recruiting talk, a lot of Saints talk as well. You can listen to it all on demand wherever you find your sound. I've been telling you for a week that Musso is going to drive you home on After Further Review. That's not true anymore. Moscona's back. He's in the pilot seat. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, on Palmer Show.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment.